Well, many of us have been anticipating this meeting for months, and here we are. And so it's my pleasure to welcome you on behalf of the American Naturopathic Medical Association, the 32nd annual meeting. We have an exciting program in store for you. Perhaps you've had a chance to preview some of the lectures and talks and the workshops before you, but there's some new information on how science, just in the past decade, has proven true the very basic foundational beliefs of naturopathic medicine. And so, as a profession of naturopathic medicine, we have an opportunity before us, given the fact that the world is changing rapidly, pollution, radiation, all sorts of challenges before us. We now have an opportunity as a profession to stand strong, elevate ourselves as the prominent profession in the healthcare industry. So I'm pleased to welcome our speakers who are here, who will bring quality and value to the convention. I'm also pleased to welcome all the exhibitors that are here, those that continue to support the convention, that help us with many of the details of putting this convention together. So we encourage you all to give support to the exhibitors, to take some time out during your breaks to go support the people behind us here. So the ANMA has been working hard to get deeply new, stimulating information out, good quality information, and what we want to understand in our basic belief system is that nature has supremacy. Nature is always right. We don't need science to prove nature wrong or right. The whole purpose of science is to understand nature. And of course, there are so many things that science still has to understand about nature. In our profession, for example, the fact that science has only defined 5% of the actual nutrients in food. So there's a lot before us that demands continuing education, that demands that we keep up with board certification and focus on continually learning what science is discovering, that's giving us a solid foundation to practice naturopathic medicine. So as we see nature as the best mentor, and we realize that it's the lifeblood of naturopathic medicine, isn't it? Because when you read the quote from Hippocrates, and you understand that we first do no harm and practice the healing power of nature, treat the whole person. And that's what we're talking about this morning. So as we go on, we want to give credit and recognition to the man behind this, the doctor that started this whole movement, Dr. Don Hayhurst. Great meetings just don't happen. Dr. Hayhurst and staff have been working hard to keep the ANMA going and have done a stellar job at putting this meeting together, as they have done for 32 years. Dr. Hayhurst's commitment to education and board certification have been profound, and he has been instrumental to the defeat of many stubborn corporate and political pressures that were out there to defeat naturopathic medicine in different states. Over 3 decades ago, the ANMA was formed and built, and the scope and accessibility of human knowledge in natural health care was expanded. We've all benefited from the ANMA. Dr. Hayhurst has used his skills not to enrich himself, but to make the ANMA the organization it is today, and to make the world a fairer and better place. His deeply humane writings have touched minds and hearts across generations and continents, and he's earned the friendship of thousands and the respect of millions more. So with that in mind, let's all give a round of applause to Dr. Don Hayhurst. As we go on, We are going to discuss the naturopathic profession, per se, in this welcome talk, because it's a time to reflect on our profession, per se, and things that we may need to be doing to meet the challenges of ecosystem disruption and the world around us, the many toxic challenges. So when we look at that, we see that the board-certified MD, the scientific literature is exploding with proof of the power of the microbiome and the concept of sustainability. How do we restore the sustainability of the microbiome, the biodiversity of it? We can now use this information to elevate our profession and reach it out to those suffering from radioactive toxicity and from the hostile terrain of a disrupted ecosystem. On the negative, we may not be doing enough. We may not be using the fullest power of nature. We need better detox protocols. I'm sure everyone here agrees that the two things that we need to do are nourish and detoxify the body. They're really two basic things that are the core beliefs of naturopathic physicians. So we want to focus more on wholeness. What is wholeness? Wholeness includes the microbiome, and we need to nourish it. We need to make it sustainable. We need to deal with the insults of what happens when a person takes an antibiotic at any one time in their life. So we can lead by example as a profession, can't we? And before us we have challenges, and we know that the inner physician, this doctor within the body, and this power of nature, it's a good time to reflect on how much do we do in our clinical practice that actually unifies these functions, that strengthens it, that stabilizes them. Because if a person took an antibiotic just once in their life, they've knocked out 200 strains of bacteria that are impossible to put back with today's probiotics. Impossible. How do we get that ecosystem back? Well, a big part of it is the habitat. We have to know how to put the habitat, restore the habitat, so that they can grow and flourish and find a permanent home in the body. So then as we welcome you, we want you to take some time to reflect on the achievements of the ANMA, the unfolding story and successes, but also how nature is like a compass, our best mentor, pointing always in the right direction. So everything we do, we should look to the wisdom of nature. That's important. No matter what we do in our practice, what philosophy we have, what type of supplements we use, or what diet we recommend, we want to always look back to nature and let nature guide us. When we look at the profession today, we look at why are so many people sick? Well, this explains it. 95% of patients have a microbiome deficit. 95% are malnourished. No matter what supplements we use and what diet we give them, they still stay malnourished. And that's the point that you're going to get through this presentation. Now, and then the toxicity, well, at least 90% are quite toxic. So these are the biggest needs of our profession, and we have to meet them. And so if the world's leading microbiome experts have redefined nourishment, they're saying that we don't get our nourishment from food. We get our nourishment from the interaction of the microbiome with our food, you see? So that really broadens the whole perspective of what we're doing, doesn't it? So how does this microbiome, if it's intact, if it's truly diverse and sustainable, how, when it interacts with food, can it benefit us? These are the questions we need to be asking. So if nourishment comes from our microbiome, we see that right now the naturopathic profession sits squarely upon a solid scientific foundation of proof. Essential operating principle of science is trust in nature. Trust in nature. And that's what we believe in, isn't it? Microbiome deficits have been linked to autoimmune disease, cancer, obesity, many diseases in prestigious medical and scientific journals. The publications continue to surface. The Human Microbiome Project, Dr. Lita Proctor, she said that the microbiome is habitat dependent, and so right she is. Do we know how to restore the habitat? We need to know how to restore the habitat. It's just not a matter of giving a patient probiotics. It's restoring the habitat. If you restore the habitat, goodbye inflammation, goodbye gluten sensitivity, goodbye irritable bowel syndrome. See? So, yeah, we can focus on these things, but we can eliminate them if we put back what nature originally intended in the gut. So the question is, if we believe that health and vitality and the naturopathic goal of restoring wholeness, if we believe in that, then we want to continue with continuing education. We want to continue with our board certification. And we want to broaden our clinical focus now to what the latest science is saying and work on ways to nourish the microbiome. You see, microbiome has 5 million genes. Human cells only 23,000. What does that tell you? Why did the microbes have all those genes? Obviously, those genes, as scientists are now saying, produce antitoxins, digest our food, anti-cancer compounds, anti-tumor compounds, you name it. But the most powerful source of the most powerful anti-inflammatory power comes from the microbiome itself, not from anything we do with a supplement, not from modulating the immune system or anything else. So it's something to think about, isn't it? Dr. Joshua Lederberg defined humans as superorganisms when we include in the anatomy and physiology the human microbiome. And look what science is saying. A quote from Scientific American: "We are a walking superorganism hosting our own microcommunity. They perform important tasks such as breaking down the food component to make them digestible or processing nutrients so we can make use of them," end of quote. And then numerous scientific journals, Dr. Stig Bangmark, one of my favorite researchers in this field, he said, health and well-being depend on the availability of some more than 2 million different molecules, supplied by foods and made available in the large intestines by fermentative actions. Dramatically decreased in modern society, modern man has reduced these to a few dozen nutrients. And furthermore, many important molecules in foods are destroyed by modern methods to store and prepare the food, end of quote. So when we think about this ecosystem, we also know about the brain-gut connection. We see leading scientists are saying several 100,000, if not millions, of symbiotic nutrients are produced by fermentation of our microbes in the gut. Do we need these nutrients? Of course we do. This is nature's original intent. The question is, do you know how to put them back? Do you know how to install the microbiome to fix the habitat so the microbiome can flourish and nourish us in excellent ways? That's the question. So as we look at Dr. Jeremy Nicholson, Imperial College of London, he said, disrupting intestinal colonies with a course of antibiotics leads to digestive sickness. Almost every sort of sickness has a gut flora connection. And Science, just a recent publication in Science, 2013, said the microbiome is the root of malnutrition. The root of malnutrition. So we have a window of opportunity, don't we? Looking at the science, looking at what researchers are showing, that we really have to think more about focusing on how to restore the habitat and the microbiome, proving that we really value the living truth and the compass that nature provides. Because the final arbiter of truth, what is the final arbiter of truth? Nature. Nature. So we can't go wrong if we copy nature. So we have to rethink some of our strategies, don't we? Some of them we may have to stop doing. Some of them we want to continue with caution, and some we want to do more of. And so we want to correct nutritional deficiency. That's an important part of our practice. And we also want to leverage the power of the microbiome, its social networking ability of these microbes to communicate with one another and to benefit us in incredible ways. So what are the factors that support our naturopathic growth? Well, you already do most of them. Let's take a look at them. The microbiome itself nourishes and cleanses the body, detoxifies us in ways that we can't detoxify with supplements, food, or fasting, or juicing. So it nourishes and cleanses us. It nourishes neurons and cells and gives us the superorganism potential. And what is our biggest enemy? Inflammation. We store toxins instead of excrete them because we don't produce enough bile. Guess what? Bile is the key to restoring the habitat. But you'll learn more about cell polarity as we go on, because cell polarity is the key to restoring the liver cell's ability to make bile. But we'll talk more about that in a moment. So we're hardwired for healing, aren't we? The genius of our microbiome is the best of human nature. If we provide nourishment for it, give it a good habitat, it will benefit us. There is scientific proof that the microbiome detoxifies us better and in ways that we cannot detoxify ourselves. Without the system intact, toxins get stored. If they're carcinogens, they promote and induce cancer. So it's life and death, isn't it? It's life and death. We need to detoxify, but we need to use the microbiome to help us. That's what's important. So, microbiome nourishment is number one. The first priority we should have in our practice is microbiome nourishment. Then, food as medicine approaches, which we already do. Revitalized water that's free of ionic stressors. We'll talk more about that when I get into cell polarity. Afferent neuron nourishment, and habitat restoration. This means that we have to stop using bandages that patch over the real cause of illness, don't we? We have to really focus on ways to help our inner ecosystem work better for us, on our behalf. When we look at the inner physician and define it, we see the doctor within the body consists of the microbiome, which is 90% of the cells in our body. We're only 10% human cells. And then the hepatocyte polarity and the afferent sensory neuron polarity are critical. They're critical, and I'll talk more about that in the next presentation, why they're so critical. But if you look at these studies that are cited, these are studies I published in medical journals back in 1976, back in 1983, 1988, Journal of Applied Nutrition. I started looking at cell polarity a long, long time ago. And that has been the main focus. And it turns out that researchers with dozens and dozens of studies are proving my early research right. And that is that one of the most important things that we can do is to focus on restoring cell polarity. And you're going to be amazed at the very things that we're blind to, that we do every day in our life, that are disrupting cell polarity. You're going to be amazed. So, if we just nourish human cells, that means we're only nourishing 10% of the cells in our body. That's not our goal as naturopaths. We want wholeness. We want to restore health and vitality of people. Important. What are the barriers that we have? The naturopathic goals: malnourishment of the microbiome, number one. To cripple microbiome detox functions, because if the microbiome can't detox us, no matter what we do, we get toxic. And the cripple anti-inflammatory power of the microbiome. Bile is one of the most powerful anti-inflammatories known to man. The microbiome itself produces all kinds of wonderful anti-inflammatory compounds. If we have patients coming in with inflammation, irritable bowel, yeah, we can tell them to avoid gluten, but is that the real issue? Is that what we really need to be telling them? Think about it. So, a drop in cell polarity then occurs because humans are overpowering nature. That's a quote from Scientific American. We want an integrated understanding. How do the interlocking components of the body's inner physician work hand in hand with the microbiome via independent actions to restore wholeness? How? How does that happen? And we want to understand the polarity of the microbial cells, of the human cells, and of the neurons is critically important to getting people well. If we want that doctor within the work at full force, we need to think about cell polarity. So what's the missing link to optimizing the power of nature? Cell polarity. There's a quote from PLOS One Medical Journal, May 2013. The quote from Dr. Daniel Zarowski. He says, exploiting nature, tilting the balance in favor of the host by means other than antibiotics is a really important approach, end of quote. So you see, we have science backing what we believe in. And more than ever in the past decade, the Human Microbiome Project was initiated. We're in a position now to really get this profession off the ground. And so but we have to focus on the real issues. Dr. Chad Merkin, Northwestern University, said the more we learn about mastering nature, the more we seem to learn that nature is the ideal model. Living systems construct themselves in such stunning variety, yet with unerring precision and so little energy. So the human cell and the microbial cell. 23,000 genes for human cells, 5 million genes for microbes. So we have to get away from the quick fix, instant gratification generation who demands a symptomatic fix for their problems. If they truly want to get well, they have to make some changes in their lifestyle. That's important. And superorganism potential is within the grasp of each one of us. We can give that superorganism potential to our patients. But we have to restore the microbiome. Take a look at it this way. If we improve the biodiversity of the microbiome, we improve the nourishment. We improve the detox capacity. And we have sustainability. And that's what they're saying. Sustainability is what we want. We don't want to keep attacking yeast infections and fungal infections. We want the microbiome to defend us. We want it to be a barrier against pathogens. We want it to fight inflammation. We want it to detoxify us, don't we? That's what I'm trying to say here. So raising the diversity of the microbiome, we raise its intelligence. Its genetic intelligence plays out. And we elevate our nourishment hundreds of thousands of times. You want anti-aging? That's it. You get that microbiome in place, forget hormone replacement therapy, get the microbiome in place. Let the microbiome make hundreds of thousands of nutrients to fortify us, to make us resilient to stress. Stress is a killer. Look at all the science showing the microbiome is important to homeostasis, it's important to metabolism, it's important to human physiology, it has anti-cancer effects, you name it. All types of research. In the journal Physiological Review, it said that the microbiome plays a central position in health and disease. So then, as we summarize, we see the microbiome is behind our neurohormonal and metabolic enhancement. It's behind immune regulation, and it's actually 75% of the human immune system when intact. It's behind emotional stability. And it's the ultimate way to nourish and detoxify the body. The latest research, published in the past 2 or 3 years on the gut-brain axis, shows that a disruption of the microbiome can cause depression, autism, anxiety, psychoses, you name it. The science is there telling us that's where to look for your answers. It's not St. John's wort. It's not homeopathic symptomatic treatment. Yes, they help, and you should still use them. There's nothing wrong with that. But the quick question I keep asking again, are we really addressing the core issues of why and how our patients are sick? Are we really aiming our clinical efforts at restoring wholeness and using the fullest power of nature? That's the question that we have to all ask ourselves in this profession. So if we want success, we have to nourish more than 10% of the body's cells, target the other 90%. We realize that food can only be medicine when the microbiome habitat is restored. And as Jeffrey Gordon said in Science, he said, quote, differences in the gut bacteria that provide essential nutrients to the body and fuel the Krebs cycle are the core of the organism's metabolism, causing all sorts of issues. You interfere with the microbiome and the whole metabolism will slow down and we become depleted. The upshot is that malnutrition is complicated. We can't measure it in blood tests. It's complicated. End of quote by Dr. Jeffrey Gordon, another profound, intelligent, leading researcher in the field of the microbiome sustainability, the Human Microbiome Project. So if you think you're getting adequately nourished, wait until you get your microbiome working. And you really get nourishment. You won't believe how great you feel and how great your patients can feel. The 3 challenges to goal achievement, 3 challenges. 1, we have to deal with post-harvest depletions, soil nutrient depletions, and we have to deal with environmental pollution that is doubling every 2 years. Those are challenges. And so we have to think about changing our strategy to meet these challenges, don't we? We can't practice the naturopathic medicine we practiced 10, 20 years ago. We really need education, and that's why the ANMA is here, to keep you up to date with science. Very important. Look, I mean, the medical field, look at what they're saying. Hypertension has climbed 27% in young people. Medical errors. This was a quote, how the road to promising scientific breakthroughs in real-world remedy have become all but a dead end. They don't have solutions. In fact, medical errors are the leading cause of death. Our profession is badly needed, sorely needed. The need for board-certified MDs, look what some of the, right on national TV, Kate Couric talked about medical mistakes. All these publications are coming out exposing the truth about what's happening. One of my favorite quotes is Dr. Henry Markham. He's a neuroscientist. He said, quote, there's not a single neurological disease today in which anybody knows what is malfunctioning. This is shocking. We're living in such a primitive time of medicine, end of quote. See? So they don't even know how the brain works, precisely. So that's why we have to trust in nature, trust in ecosystem cycles, trust in ways to restore that vast genetic diversity of the human microbiome. 5 million genes on our side, we cannot go wrong. We cannot go wrong. Now, research has shown that the microbiome can cure cancer. Well, we can't use the word cure, you know that. But the thing is, the microbiome itself, if we nourish it, it can take care of those issues. It can take care of inflammation, which many researchers say cancer is fueled by inflammation. Look what's happening to the world around us. Massive fish kill in Iceland, February 6th, 2013. 10,000 tons of fish were found dead in Iceland, where some of the cleanest waters on earth are. And there's massive reports. Bees, this year, the bee population, 40% die off. And they say that if the bees die, about 40% of food that we now eat will no longer be here. So, more reason to focus on getting our microbiome strong. Radioactive toxins are leaking. According to a study done, it said that radioactive tritium has leaked from 3/4 of U.S. commercial nuclear power sites into groundwater. And the number and severity of leaks keeps increasing. How do we get rid of this radiation? How do we detoxify it? You'll learn more about that. These are other pictures of what's happening. The world, mock plutonium coming from the nuclear power plant is getting in the air, the water, and the food. How do we detoxify it? Guess what? Scientists have admitted openly that 200 tons are leaking into the Pacific Ocean daily since the Japan crisis started. How do we detoxify it? Scientists say that 1 milligram of mock plutonium is equal to 2 million of Chernobyl radiation. Very toxic. We don't have a way to detoxify it. Forget iodine. Forget everything we know. The microbiome can detoxify it. Getting the picture? I see the lights going on. So we need, this is a quote from Dr. Boris Worm, Dalhousie University. He said, "Man has little concern for other species on the ecological health of the planet as a whole. He ignores natural limits simply because they're inconvenient. He can burn oil without limit. He can pollute without limit. He can extract resources from the earth without limit." At this point, 29% of fish and seafood species have collapsed, declined by 90%. It is a very clear trend, and it is accelerating. All fish and seafood species are projected to collapse by 2048. This is the world we live in. So we must adapt our clinical approach to the changing, profound changes and the stresses and the challenges that we're faced against. Is water the missing puzzle? Well, you see the illustration here, water. That's a picture of water. Normal water that's gone through reverse osmosis, filtering. That's a picture. Water has memory. That's the principle of homeopathic medicine, is it not? Water has memory. If it will expose to anything, Wi-Fi frequencies, anything. It'll hold that energy. Do we want that in our body? No. We don't want that information in our body. That's something we need to be concerned about in this modern day age. So we developed technology to erase it, to give us back what nature originally intended, rainbow colorations in water. There's the picture. In nature, a waterfall produces a rainbow if the water is free of ionic stress, if the water is what nature originally intended. So, by removing the ionic stressors and the electrical and the Wi-Fi frequencies and the radioactive gases, we can improve the quality of water consumed by our patients. Very important. So the healing power of nature, when we think about microbial diversity, very important. If we don't have it, we get infected. We constantly fight infections. The immune system promotes inflammation. The nervous system can't regenerate and repair us. And we don't get enough nourishment, and we cannot be resilient to the stress of modern day life. Integrated methods to optimize the power of nature. Again, polarity, polarity, polarity. So what's the take-home message of this welcome talk? The take-home message is we want to address the quantum domain of cells, cell polarity. We want to nourish microbial cells so they can nourish us. And we want to restore embryologic wisdom toward the active phase of motility or passive relaxation. Restoring embryologic wisdom is critical for the body to heal and repair itself. We have to seek all dimensions of wellness in union with the ecosystem services that are offered by our microbiome. We have to address the water link. The water is the #1 stressor. And so if we want, let's trust in the wisdom in nature. Let's acknowledge what nature has as truth. Let's use it as a compass in our naturopathic practice to point us in the right direction, to make the right decisions for our sick patients. Thank you.